and welcome back to another video showcasing the January release from Picket Fence Studios. Today I am going to be focusing on the two big floral stamps. If you know me, you know I'm obsessed with flowers and I love these big huge stamp sets. And I'm going to be watercoloring both of these but using different mediums. So I'm going to start with stamping up a bride's bouquet, and first of course I'm doing some anti-static treatment on my watercolor paper here, and then I'm stamping it up using Wow embossing pad and my MISTI, of course. The embossing powder I've used for this is Metallic Gold Rich from Wow Embossing, and it's a super lovely and gorgeous color. And the one thing that I really like about these embossing powders is that even though you can see that it's not like super perfectly covered, but once you heat it and you heat it enough, the lines will just melt perfectly and will fill in those gaps. So make sure when you're heat embossing that your heat gun is always preheated, so it's red hot and ready. And as soon as your powder is melted, you need to move on to the next stage, because you want it nice and smooth and melted, but you don't want it to start bubbling. You can see I'm just finishing off the last little pieces of this image, and we're going to have a little close-up look of this so you can see what I mean about the whole filling in the gaps. So look at that. Isn't that just, it's perfect. I mean, this is lovely as it is actually, but I'm going to watercolor it, and I'm going to be using the re-inkers from Ink on 3 for their Atelier inks. And these are really rich and vibrant and lovely colors. I've started out coloring the greenery, and then, because I know that they were going to be green, and then I started moving on to the cotton buds and the flowers. And I wanted quite a sort of springy feel, and unfortunately I added a little bit too much of that pink and orange at the top. But I tried to soften it up by adding more water and just tapping off the or dabbing off the excess color. And I didn't actually have a re-inker for Twiggy Brown, so I have used the ink pad itself just to get a tiny little bit of brown to give those cottons, the fresh cotton balls, kind of a little bit of shape and color. And I'm also adding a little bit of liquid pixie dust to the cotton balls alone, nothing else, just to kind of make them sparkle and stand out a little bit. Because it is a bridal bouquet after all, so you know we want it nice and sparkly for the big day. And liquid pixie dust, just as the re-inkers, is really concentrated. So even though you think, oh, it's not showing up like hugely, once it dries, it's so incredibly sparkly and shimmery. And this, that tiny little bottle, will last you a long while, even if you add sparkles to every single card you make. So there we have it. This is not completely dry yet, so it's not going to show up like the super shimmery stuff. Now, while all that is drying, I'm going to move on to the next card, and this is the Barberton Daisy. And again, popping that into my MISTI, and for this one, I'm using the Black Hybrid ink pad, which is both Copic and watercolor friendly. I did have to stamp it up a couple of times to make sure that the image was completely covered, because this was brand new out of the packet, so never before used. For the coloring, I have decided to go completely non-natural, not found in nature in any kind of way, with a turquoise stem and some very colorful petals. So started out with green, added some yellow, went with a little bit of blue, and added in some fuchsia as well, just to kind of round it all out, and a little bit of orange and yellow in the middle there, which is probably the only thing that's, you know, somewhat found in nature. And just to finish off the whole unnatural look, I also splattered some black paint on top of that, but I should have waited for it to be completely dry, because if you look at the big fuchsia petal in the front, you can actually see that it is smudged a little bit. And to finish these two cards off, I decided for my bridal card to keep it really soft and simple look. So I am going to heat emboss one of the sentiments from the stamp set, and I heat emboss this in gold on vellum for that really soft, elegant look. And one of the tricks that I find with vellum is, when you heat emboss on vellum, is trying to touch it very, very, very little. Stamp it quickly, and then you need your heat gun to be super hot and ready for when you actually do the melting, because vellum heats up so quickly and it's so easy to overcook your embossing powder, and then you get that sort of weird bubbly look, which is not pretty. I find that it just makes it really, really easy to control the speed and everything if I have that little corkboard, which I'm using now. If I had that in the back, I don't have to worry about burning my fingers. It also helps with the warping, and it just, look how quickly this happens. It's like literally work of seconds. And even with it just going, that's all I did. And the Y is still on it's still a little bit overcooked, but I figured it was good enough to use anyway. So I trimmed that down, and I'm going to add it to my card. But you can see that there was no warping on that vellum, so I could use it right away. On the back of the panel, I have added double-sided tape, and then I simply wrapped the vellum sentiment strip around it and adhered that to my card base. And I added a little bit under the heat embossed sentiment as well, and then popped something heavy on top to make sure it stays flat. My other card, I adhered to a black card base, and that's actually resting under my MISTI because I used some liquid adhesive. And my sentiment, I tried a little something that didn't work out, but I wanted to see what it looked like. And I used one of these sentiments, and I've heat embossed it in fairy dust. However, it kind of looks like it says, "You are an absolutely positively amazing human, bong." So I decided to redo it in white embossing powder instead. And this one is much better because you can actually see what it says. And one of my little card making hacks, which I'm using a lot now because I messed up quite a few cards over the years, and it's so annoying when you stick up. This is not a stick up. When you stick something on and it's wonky on your card, it can just ruin a card, even if it's just a tiny little bit wonky. It's there, and it just drives you crazy. But anyway, so here are the two cards completely finished, and with that, we're just gonna have a couple of little close-ups on these cards, and then I am done. I really hope you've enjoyed these two videos. As you can see, you can get some very different looks by using different mediums and going for different approaches, shall we say. But I really hope you enjoyed these, and if you haven't checked out the new release from Picket Fence Studios, please do so. You're not going to regret it. It is ginormous. I will link to the shop down below in the description box. Thank you so much for stopping by today and spending this time with me. I really hope you've enjoyed this video enough to give it a thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel. See you soon again. Bye bye.